Split bushings for 4-inch PVC are not readily available in the market. The typical practice is to use regular bushings and split them in half to create a split bushing. To make split bushings from regular bushings, firstly, gather a regular 4-inch PVC bushing and a hacksaw. Secondly, secure the bushing in a vise or clamp. Thirdly, carefully cut the bushing in half lengthwise, using a hacksaw or reciprocating saw. Fourthly, sand or file the edges to smooth them out. As alternative methods, fish paper can be used as an alternative to split bushings. Wrap a piece of fish paper around the PVC pipe, leaving about 0.5 inch of overlap. Secure the fish paper with tape or electrical glue. Split wire mold can also be used to create a split bushing. Cut a piece of split wire mold to the desired length. Snap the wire mold around the PVC pipe and secure it with screws. None currently manufacture split bushings specifically for 4-inch PVC. Split bushings for 4-inch PVC may be available from some specialized electrical suppliers or online retailers. However, they are likely to be rare and expensive. It is recommended to use the method described above to make your own split bushings from regular bushings. This is the most cost-effective and practical option. When working with electrical systems and PVC conduit, it's crucial to understand the relevant regulations and best practices for ensuring safety and compliance. The National Electrical Code, or NEC, provides comprehensive guidelines for electrical installations, including requirements for conduit systems. Article 352 of the NEC specifically addresses PVC conduit, outlining acceptable uses, installation methods, and support requirements. A key aspect of PVC conduit installation is protecting conductors from abrasion and damage, especially at conduit ends where wires enter or exit the raceway. This is where bushings play a vital role. Bushings are fittings designed to provide a smooth, rounded surface at the conduit termination, preventing sharp edges from damaging wire insulation. Section 352.46 of the NEC mandates the use of bushings or fittings providing equivalent protection for conductors NR 4 or larger. While this requirement explicitly applies to larger conductors, it's generally considered good practice to use bushings on all conduit terminations, regardless of conductor size, to ensure optimal protection and longevity of the wiring system. In situations where regular bushings cannot be easily installed due to existing wiring or tight spaces, split bushings offer a practical solution. These bushings are designed with a split or hinged construction, allowing them to be installed around conductors without having to pull the wires completely out of the conduit. While commercially manufactured split bushings may not be readily available for all conduit sizes, especially for larger diameters like 4-inch PVC, electricians often create their own split bushings by modifying standard bushings. The process involves carefully cutting a regular bushing in half, creating two halves that can be fitted around the conduit and conductors. It's essential to smooth the cut edges to remove any burrs or sharp points that could damage the wire insulation. In addition to using split bushings, fish paper provides an alternative method for protecting conductors at conduit terminations. Fish paper is a tough, flexible, and electrically insulating material commonly used in electrical applications. To use fish paper as a bushing alternative, cut a strip of fish paper wide enough to wrap around the conduit end and extend slightly beyond the edge. Wrap the fish paper tightly around the conduit, overlapping the ends to create a secure and protective barrier. Secure the fish paper with electrical tape or adhesive to prevent it from unraveling. When selecting and installing bushings or alternative protection methods, it's crucial to consider the specific requirements of the electrical installation and the applicable codes and standards. Factors such as conductor size, conduit type, and environmental conditions can influence the choice of bushing material and installation technique. Always consult the NEC and local electrical codes to ensure compliance and safety. Furthermore, it's essential to use appropriate tools and techniques when cutting, modifying, or installing bushings. Use a sharp hacksaw or reciprocating saw to cut bushings cleanly and accurately. Wear safety glasses and gloves to protect yourself from flying debris and sharp edges. Smooth the cut edges of bushings with a file or sandpaper to remove any burrs or sharp points. Ensure that bushings are securely fastened to the conduit using appropriate hardware or adhesive. By following these guidelines and best practices, electricians can ensure that PVC conduit systems are properly installed and protected, providing reliable and safe electrical service for years to come. Remember to always prioritize safety and compliance when working with electrical systems. If you're unsure about any aspect of the installation, consult with a qualified electrician or electrical inspector. Understanding conduit fill calculations is crucial for ensuring the safe and efficient operation of electrical systems. Overfilled conduits can lead to overheating, insulation damage, and even electrical failures. The NEC provides guidelines for determining the maximum number of conductors allowed in a conduit based on its size and the type of conductors used. These guidelines are outlined in Chapter 9, Table 1 of the NEC. To calculate conduit fill, you need to know the cross-sectional area of each conductor and the internal area of the conduit. The total cross-sectional area of all conductors must not exceed the allowable fill percentage for the conduit size. The allowable fill percentage varies depending on the number of conductors in the conduit. For example, for 3 or more conductors, the maximum fill percentage is typically 40%. To determine the internal area of the conduit, refer to Chapter 9, Table 4 of the NEC. This table provides the dimensions and area for various conduit types and sizes. Once you have the cross-sectional area of the conductors and the internal area of the conduit, you can calculate the conduit fill percentage using the following formula: conduit fill percentage equals total conductor area divided by conduit internal area times 100. If the calculated conduit fill percentage exceeds the allowable limit, you'll need to increase the conduit size or reduce the number of conductors. It's important to note that different types of conductors have different cross-sectional areas. For example, THHN conductors typically have a smaller diameter than THW conductors of the same ampacity. When calculating conduit fill, be sure to use the correct dimensions for the specific type of conductors you are using. In addition to the NEC guidelines, local electrical codes may have additional requirements for conduit fill. Always check with your local authority to ensure compliance with all applicable regulations. Using proper conduit fill techniques not only ensures the safety and reliability of the electrical system, but also makes it easier to pull conductors through the conduit during installation. Overfilled conduits can make it difficult to pull conductors, leading to damage and increased labor costs. Therefore, it's always best to err on the side of caution and use a larger conduit size than necessary to ensure adequate space for the conductors. When working with PVC conduit, it's important to use appropriate bending techniques to avoid kinking or damaging the conduit. PVC conduit can be bent using a variety of methods, including using a hot box, a bending spring, or a hydraulic bender. A hot box is a specialized tool that heats the PVC conduit to a pliable temperature, allowing it to be bent into the desired shape. To use a hot box, insert the conduit into the box and heat it according to the manufacturer's instructions. Once the conduit is pliable, carefully remove it from the box and bend it to the desired angle. A bending spring is a flexible coil that is inserted inside the PVC conduit to prevent it from collapsing during bending. To use a bending spring, insert it into the conduit at the point where you want to make the bend. Then apply pressure to the conduit while gently bending it around to form a template. A hydraulic bender is a powerful tool that uses hydraulic pressure to bend PVC conduit. To use a hydraulic bender, position the conduit in the bender and apply pressure until the desired bend is achieved. When bending PVC conduit, it's important to avoid kinking or flattening the conduit. Kinks can restrict the flow of conductors and weaken the conduit, while flattening can make it difficult to pull conductors through the conduit. To prevent kinking or flattening, use smooth, even pressure when bending the conduit and avoid bending it too sharply. After bending PVC conduit, it's important to allow it to cool completely before installing it. This will help the conduit retain its shape and prevent it from distorting over time. When installing PVC conduit, it's important to use appropriate supports to secure it to the structure. The NEC specifies the maximum spacing between conduit supports based on the conduit size and type. Supports should be installed at intervals that prevent the conduit from sagging or moving excessively. PVC conduit can be supported using a variety of methods, including using straps, clamps, or hangers. Straps are typically used to secure conduit to walls or ceilings, while clamps are used to secure conduit to pipes or other structures. Hangers are used to suspend conduit from ceilings or beams. When selecting conduit supports, it's important to choose supports that are compatible with the conduit material and the environmental conditions. For example, stainless steel support should be used in corrosive environments to prevent rust and corrosion. In addition to providing support, conduit supports also help to protect the conduit from physical damage. Supports should be positioned to prevent the conduit from being struck or crushed by equipment or other objects. When installing conduit supports, it's important to use appropriate fasteners to secure them to the structure. The type of fastener used will depend on the type of structure and the weight of the conduit. Common fasteners include screws, bolts, and anchors. Always use fasteners that are rated for the intended load and are compatible with the structure material. Proper grounding and bonding are essential for ensuring the safety of electrical systems. Grounding provides a path for fault current to return to the source, tripping the circuit breaker or fuse and preventing electrical shock. Bonding connects all metal parts of the electrical system together, creating a low impedance path for fault current. The NEC specifies the requirements for grounding and bonding in Article 250. This article outlines the methods for grounding different types of electrical systems and equipment. To ground an electrical system, a grounding electrode conductor is connected from the service equipment to a grounding electrode. The grounding electrode is typically a metal rod or pipe that is driven into the ground. The grounding electrode conductor must be sized according to the NEC guidelines based on the size of the service entrance conductors. To bond an electrical system, all metal parts of the system, including conduit, enclosures, and equipment, are connected together using bonding jumpers or conductors. Bonding jumpers must be sized according to the NEC guidelines based on the size of the circuit conductors. Proper grounding and bonding are essential for preventing electrical shock and minimizing the risk of fire. It's important to follow the NEC guidelines carefully when grounding and bonding electrical systems. When working with electrical systems, it's important to use appropriate personal protective equipment, or PPE, to protect yourself from electrical hazards. PPE includes items such as rubber gloves, safety glasses, and insulated tools. Rubber gloves are used to protect your hands from electrical shock. Gloves should be rated for the voltage of the electrical system you're working on. Safety glasses are used to protect your eyes from flying debris and arc flash. Insulated tools are used to prevent electrical shock when working on energized circuits. Tools should be rated for the voltage of the electrical system you're working on. In addition to PPE, it's important to follow safe work practices when working with electrical systems. Always de-energize circuits before working on them whenever possible. Use lockout-tagout procedures to prevent circuits from being accidentally re-energized. Maintain a safe distance from energized equipment and conductors. Never work on electrical systems in wet or damp conditions. If you're not qualified to work on electrical systems, hire a qualified electrician to do the work for you. Electrical work can be dangerous, and it's important to take the necessary precautions to protect yourself from harm. Understanding voltage drop is important for ensuring the efficient operation of electrical systems. Voltage drop is the decrease in voltage that occurs along a conductor due to its resistance. Excessive voltage drop can cause equipment to malfunction or fail to operate properly. The NEC recommends limiting voltage drop to a maximum of 3% for branch circuits and 5% for feeders. To calculate voltage drop, you need to know the length of the conductor, the current flowing through the conductor, and the resistance of the conductor. The voltage drop can be calculated using the following formula: voltage drop equals current times resistance. The resistance of the conductor depends on its material, size, and temperature. The NEC provides tables of conductor resistance in Chapter 9. To minimize voltage drop, use larger conductors or reduce the length of the circuit. You can also use conductors with lower resistance, such as copper instead of aluminum. When designing electrical systems, it's important to consider voltage drop and take steps to minimize it. Excessive voltage drop can lead to wasted energy, reduced equipment performance, and increased operating costs. Therefore, it's always best to err on the side of caution and use conductors that are large enough to minimize voltage drop. Understanding overcurrent protection is crucial for ensuring the safety of electrical systems. Overcurrent protection devices, such as circuit breakers and fuses, are designed to protect electrical circuits from damage caused by excessive current. Overcurrent can be caused by short circuits, overloads, or ground faults. The NEC specifies the requirements for overcurrent protection in Article 240. This article outlines the types of overcurrent protection devices that are permitted for different types of circuits and equipment. Circuit breakers are automatic switches that trip and interrupt the flow of current when an overcurrent condition occurs. Fuses are one-time devices that melt and interrupt the flow of current when an overcurrent condition occurs. Circuit breakers can be reset after they trip, while fuses must be replaced after they blow. The size of the overcurrent protection device must be matched to the ampacity of the circuit conductors. The NEC provides tables of conductor ampacity in Article 310. The overcurrent protection device should be sized to protect the conductors from overheating and damage. In addition to protecting conductors, overcurrent protection devices also protect equipment from damage caused by overcurrent. Equipment manufacturers typically specify the maximum overcurrent protection device size for their equipment. It's important to follow the manufacturer's recommendations when selecting overcurrent protection devices. Proper overcurrent protection is essential for preventing electrical fires and protecting equipment from damage. It's important to follow the NEC guidelines carefully when selecting and installing overcurrent protection devices. Always use overcurrent protection devices that are rated for the voltage and current of the electrical system. Never bypass or tamper with overcurrent protection devices. Doing so can create a serious safety hazard. Understanding National Electrical Code requirements is essential for anyone working with electrical systems. The NEC is a comprehensive set of standards that provides guidelines for the safe installation and maintenance of electrical systems. The NEC is updated every 3 years to reflect changes in technology and best practices. The NEC covers a wide range of topics, including wiring methods, overcurrent protection, grounding, and equipment installation. The NEC is not a law, but it is widely adopted by state and local jurisdictions. Many jurisdictions require electrical work to be performed in accordance with the NEC. The NEC is organized into chapters, articles, and sections. Each chapter covers a specific topic, such as wiring methods or grounding. Each article provides detailed requirements for a specific aspect of the topic. Each section provides specific instructions for how to comply with the requirements. It's important to familiarize yourself with the NEC requirements that are relevant to the type of electrical work you're performing. The NEC can be a complex and challenging document to understand. There are many resources available to help you learn about the NEC, including training courses, online tutorials, and study guides. If you are not sure about any aspect of the NEC, consult with a qualified electrician or electrical inspector.